bring 10-player instance challenging content. It's something that we've been wanting to do for a while, and we felt that when players hit the level cap and they got to 80, if you really like doing something like World versus World, there was a lot of that there for you. If you like doing structured PvP, there's a lot of that. And on the PvE aspect, there wasn't enough there to really hold you, and this is what we really love to do with raids, is give you that repeatable content. You do it every week, you form a guild, you meet new friends, and you go and you do it every week together.
The main thing, though, is that we really wanted to raise that level of challenge. We wanted to force that was going to bring people together and have to come up with really crazy or intricate strats to overcome these things in ways that even we haven't been able to foresee yet.
Yeah, and you've been working on this for a long time. How good did it feel to finally get to talk about it?
It was pretty crazy because, I know a lot of raiders, and I've got a lot of friends that I've met throughout the years in other games, and so knowing that I was working on this content, it was like, oh man, you guys, you're going to be so excited when I can tell you. So we sat on it for a really, really long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I'm glad this is finally, we're almost there. We are 27 days out from Heart of Thorns.
Part of the reason for the secrecy, though, is we just want to make sure that this was the thing that we wanted to do and that we were going to do it right. So it was a lot of, okay, let's build the bosses, let's actually play it. Can we actually pull this off? Can we bring out what we really want out of it? And the stuff that Crystal and the rest of the team back in Bellevue have done is just phenomenal. Countless hours that we knew we were onto something when devs were giving up their Monday nights because they wanted to come and try these things and be better than some of the internal test groups that we've had.
Right.
So just that level of enthusiasm that just brought everything together is just knew this was the time to do it.
Yeah. So what we did for today, since we had some time to talk about raids, is gather up things that Guild Wars 2 players have been asking about raids and things they've wanted to know. So Crystal, why don't you start and tell us where the first raid is?
Okay,
where are we going to find this?
First raid is going to be located north of Verdant Brink. I know Wooden Potato's going crazy right now, going, oh, what's up there? And so you're
like, oh no.
So you enter in it's north of Verdant Brink. You'll enter in somewhere in the northeast corner, just east of the Itzel village that's there.
Yeah.
Kind of just off the corner of the Silver Waste.
All right, so do you just...
One of the important things to realize is that during next weekend's Beta Weekend 3 test, you'll be able to play the first boss that's in there, so
that's right.
It's good to know where that is.
Yeah, so
yes.
Get ready. So how do you get in? Do you just walk in and you're all good to go?
Sort of. It's kind of similar to how you enter in a dungeon, except instead of getting into a party, you get into a squad, because those are our new large group party systems.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit yesterday.
Yep. We did. Yeah. We have a new squad UI. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And so you basically just get into your squad once you've got 10 other players, and you don't have to have the full squad to start. You walk up to the entry, and we've got this awesome portal that you walk into. It's real scary. And you'll get the same little pop-up that you get when you go into dungeons, and then it'll ask you which wing section you want to go into. So for Beta Weekend 3, you'll just have the one option, and then once our second release comes out, it'll populate that list with more options.
Nice. Okay, so the cool thing about this, though, since...
That's the portal!
I was sitting here thinking, we're not showing that yet. Where is it? They look amazing. We should show them. So the cool thing about this, though, you talked about being in a squad, is that you don't have to go shell out 300 gold for a commander tag.
Right, so if you already have a commander squad unlocked on your account, you can just form it and you can have access to all the features of the Wubble commander squad to use in your raid. And so that's something that a lot of people already have unlocked, but what if you don't have that unlocked?
Right.
And I'm sure some people are sitting at home going, oh man, I got to go farm up 300 gold to go buy this book so I can raid? No. So along with the World versus World squad system and all the updates that we're introducing, we're also introducing a form of a leaderless squad. So technically anyone will be able to form up a leaderless squad on the fly. It is capped at 10 players. And you don't really have a ton of control over it, though, because you're not a commander. So you'll be able to get into groups of 10. You will be able to raid without owning the commander book. And it uses more similar to party functions, so it has a vote to kick. And there's no owner or anything of the group. Right. If a commander does join, they can take over ownership and unlock those commander squad features that we've introduced. But otherwise, it'll allow you to raid.
Yeah, so even if you don't have the commander tag, even if you haven't purchased it, you're still covered. We can still get you in there and make you do everything you want to.
Yeah, and if it's something where you start raiding and you really like it and you're like, okay guys, like we want to keep doing this like every week, let's pool our money together and get a commander book unlocked so we can get some of these extra features, like moving the squad party members around.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. So, all right, this one is one that I particularly love because I didn't think of it until I saw some people asking about it and they went, oh, right. So this came up after the announcement. Are masteries just attunements?
So we consider attunements to be a hard gate that prevents you from getting into the raid in the first place. So yes, if we hadn't introduced leaderless squads, the commander book would have been something of an attunement because we would be forcing you to go grind out 300 gold, and then that's what would get you in. There's nothing that's going to prevent you from getting into the raid at all, and that's what we consider to be an attunement, just some sort of blocker or a gate that prevents you from getting in. And I know it came up like, oh, well, now I need gliding, and it's for this one boss, and gliding is so cool. We just shove it in your face as soon as you get into the...
Really, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it is basically something that is so essential to playing in the jungle that we kind of just make you take it as the first one as soon as you get out of that story instance, so that you're not going to feel like, oh god, like this is really difficult to navigate this area. I wish I had gliding. You got gliding.
We've got that, and we're going to talk a lot more about gliding later today. We're going to talk about maps in Heart of Thorns, and that's going to cover that quite a bit. Yeah. So, all right, so can we pug these? That's kind of a gimme question, but let's talk about that.
I mean, if you're a really, really good group of players, maybe. But for the most part, like, we are trying to design these around the idea that you are really like a core knit group of people who are spending the time to kind of come up with these strategies that are like talking about like what builds and what traits you're bringing to these things and how you're going to play off of each other. So if it's a really good, solid group of people, maybe. But maybe for like the first one or two bosses, but we really want these, like we want this to be a true challenge.
You're being a little generous. That first boss is real hard, yo.
It is.
Crystal's like, excuse me.
It's
It
kind of
is.
rough.
I've seen him.
I am really excited for Beta Weekend 3 to see what happens.
Yeah. So if you've been following, you've seen Colin talking a lot with a lot of happiness about people coming in and getting their faces smashed in. So yeah, if you're amazing and you luck into 9 amazing pugs, maybe. But
I'm amazing.
Crystal's
You can
this
recruit
isn't going
me
to
for
happen.
your group on Beta Weekend.
Awesome. All right, so you've got your 9 friends.
Yep.
You're in your squad.
Yep.
And you're into the raid. How does the raid instance, how do we get together? How does it determine what state we're in?
Okay, so this is something we want to talk about here and kind of clear up some of this stuff ahead of time because it's a little technical and we don't actually have a way to display this to you in-game. And I think it's yet. Good point. So how it's going to work is the first person that walks into the instance, the raid instance is basically going to look at that person's progress bits and then say, okay, like what state do I set myself in? So the first person walks in, they haven't been in for the raid week, it's going to start at the first boss and you can just progress as normal. But then let's say you kill the first boss and you return on day 2, the first person walks in, it looks at their progress and it says, okay, you killed the first boss, now you start the second boss. So you're going to load in, get teleported a little bit closer to the areas. You don't have like this massive run to get towards the end, and you'll start at the second boss. If you brought a new player with you on day 2, they would start with you at the second boss, unless they ran in first. You could kill the first boss over again for them, and then they would get their loot. And otherwise, like that person isn't going to get locked to the first boss just because it wasn't spawned. They could still go in on another day and kill that boss and get their loot.
Nice.
So,
But
basically, if you were there the first day, you're only going to get the loot once. So if you kill the first raid boss, that's the only time you're going to get it until the lockout timer resets.
All right. So that was part of my next question. How does loot work, just in general? Because I really like to get...
Well, we really wanted to base it around kind of what we're doing on the rest of Guild Wars. So, like, it is personal loot. There's kind of no, like, one set of pool that is allocated for the entire raid. It's, hey, you have your own personal allotment of it. But the other aspect of it is because we do realize that this is on, like, a weekly lockout timer, we wanted to make sure that it was a little more fair and respecting in terms of the achievement that players are going to have for completing these bosses.
So how are the drop rates then?
They're
Does this
actually
hurt the drop rates?
Yeah, so that's something we've been talking about a ton with the rewards teams because I think the worst thing that would happen to us is you go and you kill a raid boss, you're like, oh, I got 2 blues and a green, this is awful. You will not get that. The rewards are actually really
Again,
cool.
thank
you. So you'll be getting stuff like Ascended rewards and the loot tables we've created for each of the bosses, they all have brand new loot tables, and the percentage chance of getting something is way higher than anything in the game because of the 1 week lockout timer. So if you're killing like a world boss like Tequatl and he's got say a 1% drop rate on his Ascended loot cache, it would probably be more like a 10 or possibly higher percent chance on each of these bosses. So everyone's going to get something.
Can you tell us some hints on what we're going to get?
Yes.
Tell me good stuff.
Okay. So
Make this worth my time.
worth your time. All right, what are you going to get? You're going to get Ascended gear. You're going to get tomes of experience that will auto-consume, and they will give you a huge chunk of experience towards whatever mastery you're currently unlocking. You will get exclusive skins, and they will only ever be available exclusive to raids because they're basically tailored and themed after like the stylized after the bosses. So like the tongue boss, I'm gonna just go and spoil it. He's got a really cool shield, and it kind of looks like we took like a big chunk of the model off, and we're like, there's the shield. You just slap it on your arm and go, yeah. They're pretty cool. There was a screenshot somewhere of like this crazy lady with a flamethrower. Like her flamethrower is.
I love her.
Yeah, her flamethrower is like a rifle skin you can get, and she's got this really cool like napalm-looking backpack. I have to kill her because I just want her skins.
That sounds a little creepy, just so you know.
We've already gone down the road of, hey, we're salvaging their corpses.
That's true.
So it's totally cool.
I feel like you're missing one aspect of the rewards, and it might be a legendary one.
Legendary armor. So yeah, there will be legendary armor. They'll be part of the rewards. And so the bosses will drop basically precursors that you need to start your journey. And it'll work similar to the current legendary journey that we're working on. Though, like, figure it to be more like the cost it would take you to get there's the flamethrower skin in that screenshot. So the cost it would take you to get like one legendary weapon, that would be kind of more similar to what it would take you to get a full legendary armor set. So figure it like each piece would be a 1/6 the cost. So you'd be able to kind of incrementally get your legendary set over time, as opposed to like this really big huge thing that you do for your weapons, and then all right, I got my weapon.
I'm loving the concept of earning these through the raids and earning all of these cool new pieces through gameplay. So thank you for setting that up. Thank you, rewards team.
Yeah, actually that was Andy on the rewards team. He has been busting his ass. My bad.
Okay, I'm gonna buy Andy a present.
Buy him a present. No, he's been working his butt off on this over on the rewards team, and then working with Lindsay on like the precursor journey stuff. And he's doing all our rewards for raids. So he knows that system really, really well, and was able to bring some of that over to us.
I love it. All right, so what if I go in with my guild? All 10 of us are guildies.
Oh, what do you get?
You look. She's like, I don't know. You have a good time.
Well, you do.
I would
I
have
want
a
to know
good
what
time.
I get.
What do you get?
Just assume I'm focused on what do I get.
So
Ruby.
one of the things that we're
like
actually
stuff.
doing is kind of the reward chest that you get for defeating these bosses is something that we're actually going to give as an item that players can put in and show off in their guild. So having just kind of almost monuments of their achievements for being able to complete these raids and overcome these
Yeah, like
massive
in their guild
encounters.
hall.
Yeah.
There's a screenshot of it here somewhere, rolling in this loop. I don't know where it is. There should be a screenshot.
There's like a
the
huge
chest.
statue in the
Yeah.
guild hall. Yeah. And we talked about that a little bit last week with Ireneo, and we just kind of chatted about things that you can unlock for your guild hall. So you can trick out your guild hall with this too.
Yep.
Yep.
I love it. All right, so
There it is. We found it.
Oh, thank you guys.
Yeah, so that's basically
So-
all the boss chests will look something similar to this. That'll spawn only when you kill the boss. You will be able to earn these as rewards for your guild halls, and each of them are unique to every single boss. So you can go visit, like if you go visit your friend's guild hall, you can actually see their progress and be like, oh man, they killed the tongue boss guy. These guys are so good.
I'm sticking with the licking dragon, but that works too.
tongue
So
boss.
can we get this to shoot flames?
I'm going to go back and ask James, be like, James, can you make this one shoot some flames too?
Do not tell him I requested it, please.
He's not watching
Because
this.
he knows where I sit. He knows where I sit. All right, so we're going to start with the first wing.
Yep.
When they're released.
Yep.
And how do these work?
So the wings are we're doing it in smaller chunks. So like if you picture a large raid release that has multiple wings, we're releasing the wings one at a time. And because part of it is like, this is something that's really new for us. We want to make sure that we're really doing these bosses right.
Right.
If we released the entire thing at once, we weren't happy with the direction of something, we have no way to change it. We're kind of stuck with that
Yeah, the
direction.
die's cast. You're done then.
Exactly. So the first wing will release sometime after Hot Ship, and you'll have access to that wing, and that will give you some amount of story as to like what's going on north of Verdant Brink.
Yep.
And you'll progress through there, and you'll learn a bit more about what you were doing there, and by the end, you'll have learned sort of the first part of the story or the first chapter, and you will basically be given some new questions, and then you'll get to experience those in the second wing, and then those are going to answer some of those questions. And there's a huge, awesome mega reveal. No spoilers, because totally can't reveal that. And so you'll do that in the second one, and then that'll get kind of concluded in the third wing when that gets released. And then so all three of these maps kind of work together as one giant map on the world map.
But if I want to jump to like Wing 2 or Wing 3 after they're released, I don't have to do this in order, right?
That is correct. You'll be able to actually start the wings in any order you want. So it's the same thing when you go to the instance entry when you're doing dungeons.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it says, do you want to do catacombs, story, or explorable? It'll be the same thing. That list will just get populated with more wings that are part of the same raid instance. And so you'll go, okay, we want to do Wing 1 today. We can start that. And then you could even say, oh, well, the second boss of Wing 1 is too hard for us. Let's go try first boss of Wing 2, and you could move over there and do that.
Yeah, so as far as story, it's going to make more sense if you do it in order, but you're not stuck with that. You don't have to.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So we have the ability to go through all of these in whatever order we want. Are they all going to be available in 2015? Do we get them all this year?
No, because that's crazy town. There's not many months left in this year.
Crystal's like, why am I here if I have all this work to do?
Basically, no. So the first wing you will get sometime after Heart of Thorns ships. We haven't announced a date yet, but definitely long before the holidays. And then the second two wings are going to be available early next year. I mean, like early. Don't think they're going to come out in like May and you're stuck with this one thing. They're going to come out like as soon as we possibly can in 2016.
Awesome. How many raids do you think you're going to crank out per year?
That is a more tricky question to answer, simply because we're trying to find our stride in terms of like how long does it take us to actually build this stuff, like what can we actually build in a month or 6 months,
right,
depending on who's on the team. I mean, if we're looking at these wings, early guess would be maybe 6 per year.
6 wings?
6
or
wings.
Full raids?
Nah, well, I mean, a full raid would be composed
I just like
of
raised the
multiple
bar
wings.
so much.
Ruby the bar. I mean, a full raid would probably be something like would be like 3 wings, maybe
Awesome.
more. It kind of depends on the story.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that says we can't do a one-off wing where we just have a very, very small, isolated story we wanted to tell. And that could just go anywhere in the world we want.
Yep.
Sweet. So, going back to story for just a second, when in the storyline do they take place? Is this way from the past?
No, this will actually take place kind of after the Heart of Thorns story has kind of calmed down a little bit, and it's kind of what is the next big challenge that we want to put players up against.
All right.
Because there's always something lurking in the shadows.
I've come to find that, and usually it's going to hurt me, is the thing. It wants to shoot me with a flamethrower.
Especially if Crystal's designing it, it wants to hurt you.
I like fire.
Again, thank you. Wow, that was almost scary, but mostly just amusing.
Well, no, it's your idiot beacon. If they're standing in the fire, they're bad.
Don't judge me.
I won't.
All right,
Not
so
too harshly.
when we go in, what about, so we've got slaying potions in the game, and we have various sigils. How are these going to affect things? Can we just load up on all of these and make it better?
So when we first started testing, we made like these custom loadouts so that we could just make all this stuff when we were making new characters.
Yeah.
And it kind of sucked. Like we had I would look at my bags and I would have like a dozen different slaying potions and like a dozen different sigils, and we were constantly like swapping things out. And we get to a new boss and they'd be like, all right, what is this? Is this a pirate? Is this an elemental? Like, what is this thing?
Nobody move while I go through all of these potions and figure out what I need.
So we're definitely worried that those would just quickly become like this best in slot thing where you're just constantly min-maxing and switching them out, and also become like a really expensive requirement to raid.
Yeah.
So we're looking at ways to actually retune that system so that they're not the best things to use. They're not intended to use. I think we would probably go the route of something like, they're equivalent to something else, but if you had the something else, you would just use that instead.
Okay, nice. Speaking of going in there with all of these buffs and everything, once the first wing goes, I'm trying so hard to say the first raid. I have stopped myself from saying that like 10 times.
I know what you're talking about.
The first wing goes live. And players get in there. What are you going to do about skills and balance? I mean, are you looking forward to them seeing what they can do with it?
These guys have already seen it.
Yeah, this goes back to the larger culture in terms of why we wanted to do raids and how we're supporting it. Is like we actually have the skills and balance guys coming to a lot of the play tests and seeing what's going on. And it's more exciting when they figure out what the overpowered build is, and then the shock, kind of sinks in that they have to now fix this. So I mean, it's a large support structure that we're going to have that's going to be able to play with this and kind of get things so that the balance is there for not just one profession or two professions, but that it's there for the entire play session.
Yeah, we spend a ton of time, we actually sync up with these guys bi-weekly, and we all sit down and they're like, all right, what's bugging you guys this week about creatures or what's weird about raids? And we're like, okay, how do we deal with this thing? And we're all educating each other on this, so everyone's getting to understand all the professions even better than we did before. And especially, when Carl does something crazy on his alley and he goes,
I have to fix this. I can't just pretend it's not there because I like it.
And vice versa. There's sometimes that the raids guys will come in and be like, hey, look, we made this new thing. And then they kind of think of, how did you do that and why?
Yeah, no, we definitely had some good conversations like that. We had a weird mechanic. It wasn't a weird mechanic. It was just the way we built it. And it wasn't entirely working with all the professions. So I sat down and I said, this is how the mechanic works. What can we do to make it so it feels good as a profession who can deal with that mechanic and not feel like this should do a thing, but it's not.
Yeah.
And so we came to a solution that it just works for all the professions if you can deal with that specific mechanic.
Awesome. All right, so we're running short on time, and I have more things that I want to know, so I'll try to...
Lightning round, go.
Lightning round, go.
Real fast.
How about waypoints and revive orbs?
There's none of those things. There has a checkpoint system just like Fractals.
Okay, thank you. What about player buffs in raids? Do they affect everybody, or is it still the 5-player limit? I mean, how much are we accommodating these 10 people?
That is a much, much larger question that came up in the lightning round that needs more time to talk about.
Sorry.
That is okay. So for now, our stance is that we're kind of against increasing the buff cap from 5 to 10, simply because we think it's going to create this super group where you take one of every single profession and you're running those really specific trait lines that passively increase damage on your party. And the problem with those things is that damage is multiplicative and it blows out balance really fast, and it also means that what we're going to start doing internally is we're going to balance everything around the supergroup, and it's going to be very limiting to us as designers to make those. And you think from a design point, we have to say, okay, we've got one of all these things. Now we can't do this specific mechanic because they're never going to be able to deal with this. They don't be able to have 2 of this. And then from a player standpoint, you're going to go in. It's not going to feel great for raid leaders or recruiters who are constantly saying, we can't raid. We have to have that elementalist. And it's also not going to feel great if someone can't show up for the night, and you're like, well, I guess there goes raid tonight. We don't have our X profession to fill in.
And the big thing is we want the player choice of what traits you're bringing and kind of what weapons you're slotting with your utility skills and stuff like that. We want those to be the meaningful choices, not necessarily who you're slotting as what profession.
And I think also the really big thing that comes down to it, there are performance implications that will negatively impact the game, especially in World versus World, and we're not trying to step on anyone else's toes here.
All right, so I will do this one last one because it's good to wind up on a fun one. We mentioned special mini pets as possible raid rewards. Can we have a hint?
It has a lot of tongues.
Totally lost. No idea.
It's the tongue.
That would be an amazing mini pet. That would be the best mini pet. So, all right. Thank you guys very much for coming and talking to us about raids. Thank you, Crystal, for all of your hard work and your team over the past, what feels like years and years and years on this.
And we have to shout out to Jason, who's working on the team with us.
Yes.
And it is amazing. And he actually made the tongue boss guy, not me.
Thank you, Jason. All right. This has been episode 1 of Guild Chat for day 2 of TwitchCon. We will be back in a little bit. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.